Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Ellie's Place Ann Arbor Healing Heart Society Virtual Fundraising Breakfast. I'm Christy Smith and I'm thrilled to serve as your MC this morning. My commitment and dedication to Ellie's Place Ann Arbor is very dear to my heart. I'm a proud Healing Heart Society member, a passionate community advocate, and I'm grateful to serve as a volunteer group facilitator for our peer support groups for grieving children and teens. It's my honor to recognize some very important people that made this morning possible. Thank you to Betsy and Woody Stover, Ellie's parents and the founders of Ellie's Place 30 years ago. Thank you to our breakfast ambassadors who invited you all to join us this morning in order to further our mission of creating awareness and support for grieving children, teens, and their families. And a very important thank you to Old National Bank, Retirement Income Solutions, and St. Joe's for generously sponsoring this year's Healing Heart Society breakfast. These sponsorships allow every dollar raised today to go directly toward our peer support programs for grieving children and teens. The community engagement, the networking opportunities, and the friendships that we develop with our sponsors are bonds we hold dear and will always treasure. Thank you. On behalf of the Ellie's Place Ann Arbor Community Board, staff, volunteers, and families, thank you for sharing your morning with us. While we wish we were together in person, we're glad you could join us virtually. Our program is filled with bravery, courage, hope, and we are grateful to our children, teens, families, and special guests who have graciously offered to share their grief journey and Ellie's Place story with you. It's now my pleasure to turn the program over to Bree Arvey, the director of Ellie's Place Ann Arbor. Bree?
Thank you, Christy, and thank you to everyone for being with us. Our Healing Heart Society breakfast is a special event. Each year we gather to raise funds for the Ellie's Place Ann Arbor peer grief support programs that are provided free of charge to children, teens, and their families in Ann Arbor and the surrounding Southeast Michigan area. We also gather to celebrate our current Healing Heart Society members and encourage others to join this special group. Our Healing Heart Society members are the foundation of our organization. They are members of our community who understand the importance of the critical work we do. They invest in grief support programs to help young people find peer connection and peer healing and to develop skills that will help them manage their grief for the rest of their lives. Healing Heart Society members actively share the Ellie's Place mission with others and generously choose to make a financial commitment to Ellie's Place Ann Arbor for a minimum of 3 years. These commitments sustain our peer grief support programs and ensure that these programs remain free of charge for anyone who enters our doors. The past 18 months have been challenging for all of us. We were forced to establish new routines and new normals. We left our places of work and our schools unsure of what tomorrow would bring. We adapted, we learned new skills, and we embraced technology. Technology provided us with a way to stay connected throughout the pandemic. For Ellie's Place, Zoom technology was an important tool, allowing us to continue providing peer support and healing to grieving children, teens, and their families remotely. I am so excited to share that we've been safely welcoming our families back into our home for Healing Hearts for in-person peer grief support since September. While the majority of Ellie's Place peer grief support programs take place right here in our home for Healing Hearts, we also offer a school-based program called Ellie's Group. Ellie's Group allows us to reach grieving children and teens who are not able to attend our on-site programs. As more schools return to on-site schooling this fall, our school-based staff is looking forward to supporting our school partners and their students and to welcoming new partners during the 2021-2022 school year. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you 5 special friends of Ellie's Place. Each one volunteered to be a breakfast ambassador for today's event. They've shared their Ellie's Place why with family, friends, and colleagues, and invited them to join our breakfast this morning. Let's listen to their moving stories of why Ellie's Place.
I was introduced to Ellie's Place by longtime supporter and board member Anita Bone. She invited me to my first breakfast almost 15 years ago, knowing how much the mission would resonate with me. Just a few years prior, I had given birth to our middle daughter, Audrey, who died just an hour after she was born. Our oldest was only 2 at the time, so we did not utilize Ellie's Place's services then, but we know intimately how profoundly a death can affect a family, as well as the healing that can come from finding a community of people who know and understand your grief. We have been supporters of Ellie's Place all of these years because we know how vitally important this work is for families in our community, and also as a way to honor the ways one special baby girl grew our hearts during the short time she was with us.
I first became familiar with Ellie's Place when I was the assistant principal at Saline Middle School approximately 8 years ago. It was then that Ellie's Place first came to Saline Middle School to support our students who had lost a special person in their lives. I had the privilege of seeing the immediate impact that Ellie's Place had on our students who lost loved ones but could not get to Ellie's Place because of time, distance, lack of transportation, or whatever other barrier. It is such an honor to have Ellie's Place come into our school to support our students alongside our counseling staff.
I can remember attending my first Ellie's Place breakfast at the Sheridan in Ann Arbor. What really resonated with me was when one of the families was speaking and their son said, "Before we went to Ellie's Place, I felt like I was the only one going through this. But then at Ellie's Place, I realized I was among others who had lost a parent." This really stuck with me. When I was just 5 years old, I lost my father to suicide. In addition, my wife lost her father to cancer when she was only 15 years old. We didn't have an Ellie's Place with others our age to be able to talk to or understand this grief and the loss of a parent. From that day at the breakfast, I came home and told my wife Kim about this amazing organization, and ever since, we've been supporters of Ellie's Place.
So my background is in education, and my heart has always been to serve children and families. And when I was working for the schools, a group from Ellie's Place came in to do a presentation for the school group I was working for to just let us know what the services that Ellie's provided. And during that presentation, it was almost as though someone took their hand and just strummed it across my heartstrings. It was so moving and so powerful, and I just knew that this was an organization and a group I wanted to be involved with in some way. During that time, I had absolutely no spare minutes in my schedule. There was no way I could be involved at that time. My schedule was jam-packed, and this was back in like 2009, I think. But fast forward like 10 years later, in 2019, I was driving past a billboard near my house, and there was a big giant message on the billboard that said, "A place for grieving children and teens," and it was for Ellie's Place. And I knew that everything had just sort of orchestrated for that time, that this was the time I could be involved. My schedule had opened up, I had spare minutes, so I put in my application to be a volunteer facilitator. And so now I work with middle schoolers every Tuesday night, and it's powerful, it's impactful every evening. I went through trauma as a middle schooler, not the death of a family member, but it was significant, and I didn't have peers to support me that had gone through the exact same thing I had gone through, and it was really difficult being alone and struggling through those feelings. So having something like Ellie's Place, where we support one another, we build those relationships, and we work through everything together, is just really powerful and really important, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
My Ellie's Place connection started nearly 10 years ago when I reached out to my work colleague, Mark Muting, to learn about community organizations in the Ann Arbor area in an effort to give back. At the time, I was really struggling with finding an organization I felt passionate about. Mark's wife, Mary, was an instructor at the time, so he knew a lot about Ellie's Place. As soon as Mark started to describe their mission of helping grieving children who had lost a significant loved one, I immediately felt a strong connection. So after attending a Healing Hearts tour and a breakfast, I knew I had found an amazing organization with wonderful people and a culture truly devoted to grieving children and their families. Since then, I've been a table captain every year. This year's breakfast is especially important as it marks the 50th year since my father's death. October 8th, 1971 forever changed my life. It would have been so nice to have an Ellie's Place for me, my 5 siblings, and my mom. Growing up, we could have all used a worry rock, a scream box, and a memory book. That's my Ellie's Place why.
Thank you, Breakfast Ambassadors. Your personal stories and moving reasons for supporting Ellie's Place touch my heart. We're grateful for you and for all of our volunteers. As I mentioned earlier, one of my connections to Ellie's Place Ann Arbor is serving as a volunteer facilitator. I'm continually amazed at the courage, empathy, and support our high schoolers share with each other. Even during our virtual sessions last year, the connections they made and the support they gave was tangible. They show up each program night for each other and most importantly for themselves. I am so incredibly proud of each and every one of them. I'm passionate about the work we do at Ellie's Place, and I have the opportunity to witness the positive impact peer grief support has on grieving children and teens. I could go on, however, I'd like you to experience what peer grief support feels like from those who have lived it. It's my pleasure to introduce a group of former Ellie's Place teens connecting with each other and their facilitator.
I would just like to welcome you back to Ellie's Place and thank you for your willingness to share your experiences and your wisdom from when you were attending an Ellie's Place support group. And it might have been here on site or it might have been at one of our high schools. I really am confident that the information that you share today, the stories that you tell, will be helpful to alleviate some of the apprehension and the fears that maybe other teenagers have about joining an Ellie's Place grief support group. You know, why would I want to go to a grief group where I'm just going to feel more pain? It's just going to bring it all up. Why would that be a good thing? Can you guys speak to that a little bit?
So I thought like one of the things that was really cool about Ellie's Place is you get to choose how you grieve at Ellie's Place. You can choose if you want to be quiet or if you want to talk. How do you express yourself in the activities? And that's something that you were saying with like you have like a therapist, you can't really do. They kind of set the tone for you. But at Ellie's Place, you kind of set your own tone. And you can, if you want to talk more, you can, but if you want to talk less, you can also. I think that's something that's really unique about Ellie's Place.
This is more of a place where you can open up to anybody. You can feel comfortable talking to people, and it's more of like a stress reliever than it is to try to handle it yourself.
It kind of felt like a family in a way. I could relate to people, like I understood where they were coming from and like what they were feeling and how I was feeling, and I thought it just made it, there was like a connection, unlike at school.
When I came here, all the people in my group we were able to be vulnerable and talk about stuff that you wouldn't usually talk about.
It just felt more like a peaceful and calm environment where everybody could just talk to each other. Everybody was open to supporting each other.
That process, understanding that everybody has their own pace, everybody has their own way of expressing their emotions is what I'm hearing from you today. And kind of that understanding of that is something that you've really taken from your groups, is that compassion and understanding.
Learning is inevitable from your group members and I feel like the journey kind of never stops. It's like learning that everybody grieves differently and you don't need to force your method of like coping on them.
You'll meet a lot of new kids that you would never have met in your life, but these kids you really relate to in a different way than like your normal friends. And like some of those kids you'll probably be friends with for the rest of your life. And when you listen to them, you get lessons from them that you never really understood. You have takeaways that are special to you. You can apply those to your own life.
It may be scary at first, but after a while, this is a safe place. You can say what you need to say and grieve how you need to grieve, and nobody's gonna judge you for it or stop you, and you're safe here.
I remember the first day we came, we made 10 rules. It was like, no one can go on their phones. You can't tell anybody anything, like outside the group, and like just made you feel a lot more safe.
No one should have to grieve by themselves. And I think that's a great motto that Ellie's Place has.
I think that having that ability to talk about how you're thinking and feeling is just so important. And I want to thank you so much for doing that today.
Thank you to this group of teens for sharing so openly. Ellie's Place is a healing space where children and teens connect with their peers and possibly for the first time since their person died, feel heard and understand they are not alone. In our safe space, they learn to talk about death and grief openly, not worrying that mentioning these words might make someone uncomfortable. During their journey, they learn by example that it's okay to talk about their person, say their name, and if comfortable, share how they died. At Ellie's Place, it's also okay to not be okay. It's okay to just listen and be present for yourself and for others in your group. While they may still feel the sadness, anger, and guilt, there is also a feeling of relief and normalcy. This is the magic of Ellie's Place. Now it's my heartfelt honor to introduce two lovely women who have beautiful hearts. They are generous with their time and their financial resources throughout our community. We are very grateful that they are Healing Heart Society members and make multi-year commitments to support Ellie's Place Ann Arbor. Please welcome Ellie's mom and the founder of Ellie's Place, Betsy Stover, and one of our most committed supporters, Molly Dobson.
Molly, as I sit and think about role models and who I want to be at the end of every day and what I want to be able to say, I think being like Molly Dobson would be the nicest thing I could achieve. You are so open to others. You are compassionate beyond words. You are bright and inquisitive and incredibly generous of your time and your heart. And there aren't very many people that are like you. I don't know of anybody like you.
You don't want to. You can clone me.
Wouldn't this community and every community like to do that?
Well, it's been a privilege to be an Ann Arborite and learn what a nonprofit is and to support programs that support people in need. Two of my favorite ones, well, Ellie's Place needs a lot of support. There wasn't support when Peter Dobson was killed. There was nothing. We need that help. Nobody can mend by themselves. They need a family. And when you come to a place like Ellie's Place, you'll find that family that you can love and listen to and go home. Maybe you'll never mend, but partially mend or get closer to total mend. I just am so glad it's here in this community.
Molly, your legacy is certainly one of utmost philanthropy, generosity, and thinking about other people. Did you learn that from your family? Was that expected of you?
I can think of one incident with my father. It was my 21st birthday, and I was living at the Delta Gamma house, and they came up to bring me a present and say hello. And here I am 2 months away from graduation, and my dad said to me, "Sis, what are you planning on doing?" And I really hadn't thought very much about it. We didn't have these questions in our family. We should have, but we didn't. But I said, well, maybe I'll be a stewardess. Airplanes were big transportation at that time and looked very exciting and inviting, and it would be a traveling experience. And this is 1944, mind you. We were deep in war on both coasts. And he said, "Do you think that's doing enough for your country?" And there was a seed there that was planted about you have an obligation where there are needs to sort of do your best to fulfill in any small way you can. Well, it's a privilege to be on the planet, and it should be very inspiring to make the most of every day and decide what matters to you and find your priorities and roll up your sleeves and get in there. If you don't have funds, there are other things you can do.
That's right.
And we have to realize that. We don't all carry the same purse. or wallet, but that's not the end of involvement. There's just so much more in terms of support.
But Molly, you've really become such a role model to me and to so many people in our community. I look on Facebook, which is you have to be the queen of the Facebook support groups for Ellie's Place. I see you sharing all the time, and it's your way of being able to tell people you're still involved, and it still matters.
Communications, and how important is that we are able to communicate in so many different ways about what we don't believe in or what we object to, and what elates us and just is great in the community.
Yeah.
And that's why I like being on Facebook. I'm Snoopy. It's as simple as that. And it's my way of keeping in touch with my grandchildren.
Ellie's Place for 30 years has had your attention, and I can't thank you enough for that attention and that support. It means the world to me, but to the families and to the growth. You legitimize things, Molly Dobson. If Molly is involved, it can't be all wrong, and it, in most cases, is remarkable.
Well, I think you're talking, Betsy, somewhat about giving, and I think we don't focus often enough on giving, or what we care most about within a community or beyond those borders.
For me, Ellie's Place provides the hope that the future for the families that walk through our doors is possible.
Wanting some sunshine.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the community that is just so thoroughly embraced Ellie's Place here in Ann Arbor. This incredible building.
Well, think of the need, Betsy, and how slow it's been in being faced and resolved. And bless your heart, what an inspiration to know that you put it together and stirred the pot and all this magic unfolded.
Our incredible staff and board and community are going to make sure that it is here for every child who's grieving and who walks through our door is going to be better because of it.
Well, and you're addressing not only every child, but the parent of every child who's suffering and hurting too, and yearning to mend and not finding comfortable ways to have that mending happen. And it just is so grief is so absorbing and so negative and so hard to get away from.
Well, and I think, as you said earlier, your friends didn't understand when Peter died. They didn't know the grief you were going through. Your family didn't even understand all that you were going through. So Ellie's Place is a place where you can sit with me, whose daughter died, and you, whose son has died, and whose daughter has died. And we have a bond that there's an understanding, there's hope, there's I get you, and you get me, and I'm here for you.
Well, you listen to me and I listen to you. Everybody needs a listener.
I think, Molly, you are just Ann Arbor's jewel.
I'm 98 years old, and it's really nice to look back on your life and realize you've had a purpose and been able to accomplish something. I must have stumbled upon it, but there's a nice, welcome, warm contentment level there when it comes to giving and knowing wonderful people and seeing wonderful things happen and unfold because of the small part you had in it's happening.
Your involvement legitimizes programs because of all that you've done throughout your life. Your legacy is keep going.
That's music to my ears. People seldom get into conversations like this or say these things or hear these things, but none of us know how long we're going to be on the planet, and we might as well make the most of every day we have. It's a gift.
Thank you, Betsy and Molly. Bubba and I are so moved by the depth of your special relationship, and we are incredibly grateful for your generosity and commitment to Ellie's Place Ann Arbor. Because of you, your fellow Healing Hearts Society members, and all of our amazing donors, we are able to provide our services free of charge to the grieving children and teens in our community. I'd like to share an important bereavement statistic with all of you. An estimated 1 in 12 children in Michigan will experience the death of a parent or sibling before age 18. Let me repeat that again. An estimated 1 in 12 children in Michigan will experience the death of a parent or sibling before age 18. Childhood bereavement is a critical and growing public health issue that can have a profound impact on a young person's future well-being. Unresolved grief can derail a child's development and create significant adverse effects in a young person's life. Ellie's Place helps equip children and teens with the tools they need to learn to cope, manage, and deal with the loss of their person during their grief journey and for the rest of their lives. Ellie's Place provides a safe, compassionate space where conversations about death and the feelings and emotions that accompany grief are normal and encouraged. At this time, I'm honored and humbled to introduce you to a former Ellie's Place family who have so generously offered to share their story with all of us this morning. Please welcome into your homes and hearts the Ruddy family.
Someone once said to me, grief is just love and it has nowhere to go. So we were faced with this love we have for her, but for Tommy, we don't know what to do with it.
A love so big and so raw.
You can't just shove it down. You can't push grief out, unfortunately. You have to come face to face with it.
As hard and as painful as that might be.
A cannonball.
Tommy was 5 years old when he got diagnosed. He was a completely normal, healthy, spunky 5-year-old little boy about to enter kindergarten.
In 2016, Tommy was diagnosed with DIPG, an aggressive and incurable brain tumor in the brainstem.
We were revved up, fighting the fight of cancer, just ready to roar, and that quickly came to a halt. In 11 weeks, our son was gone.
Just a little less than 3 months after his diagnosis, life as the Ruddys knew it would forever be different.
We didn't know when. When do we start? How do we start? It's like you're in a movie and you're watching yourself, and how is this even real?
And where do we go from here? Not only for them, but their 8-year-old daughter at the time who just lost her best friend.
We knew she was holding a lot in, that maybe she was trying not to hurt us and make us show more grief.
Yeah, and there's no playbook. So you can talk about it, you can read a pamphlet and do all those things, but at the end of the day, you've got to keep moving forward. And I think that when we got here, that was kind of the step of, okay, here's a pathway. You can kind of choose which road you want to go down.
And that's when they chose the path that led them to Ellie's Place.
A grief roadmap. And I think that Ellie's Place is kind of on that roadmap. And I think you put yourself in a position where you're lost and you don't even have a map. I think the first start is coming to Ellie's Place and trying to figure out how you're going to move through that, journey of grief.
But we were hesitant because we thought we could do it on our own. We don't need this. We're fine, but we were worried about her. We have each other as adults, but she doesn't have anyone as a kid now. So that was important to us, to help her find other children who are feeling the same way she is, and also other adults that she could trust in that weren't going through grief, because we didn't have family here. So we came here pretty quickly after he passed.
I thought it was kind of cool. I got to meet people who went through the same thing as me, because at school nobody really understands, but I'm at Ellie's Place. I got to talk to somebody about it that I could trust. So.
Some of those people were Ellie's Place facilitators, Pat and Sierra.
Pat was her leader for the entire time she was here at Ellie's Place, and she really took to her well. She entrusted her. She would greet her with a hug when we got here. She was always excited to see her, you know, like she was just really good with the kids. She really got them to express their grief in ways that's not traditional for adults to sit in a room and talk and cry, right? Like kids are having fun, but also grieving and processing, and having a group leader that she can trust was dynamic in her success in the program for sure. She still talks about her.
So Isabella came into Ellie's place not really wanting to talk about her feelings, and I'd say by the end of it, it was amazing how she evolved. She really did. She evolved.
And she really grew, and I think she got to where her feelings were and to be able to express them. She was a joy in there. She was a leader. She was kind of like the little mom in there. Kids would come up, and not necessarily just grief, but issues at school, and she would always be the one to say, well, what about this? And what if you try that? You know, so she was very helpful to the other kids.
It was kind of normal when they were all in that one room where we all met, and they would all just kind of congregate and do their thing, and then it was normal for a little bit. And I think things come out. Like she would come home and tell us certain things that just naturally came out, organically came out. So that's the way to do it. You know, I think that's for us. It was the healthy way. We didn't force her to come here. She kind of wanted to come here.
She was so bright and positive most of the time and there for everybody. But when we were all talking with each other, she would say, you know, I wish my brother were here, or I wish I could be doing this with my brother, or I should have done this with my brother. So she definitely did go through those things, even though she was this great leader in our group.
I remember her saying, even when he was sick, that they would be out in the backyard on the swing. She would bring wonderful books, those picture books of trips and vacations, and she would share with that. So she had wonderful memories.
And the work she was doing inside Ellie's place could be felt the moment she left.
The car ride home was always a good release for us. We got to hear a little bit about what she was doing, but she also kept her friends' stories confidential, you know, like it's a safe space, like she mentioned, and that was important. We never pressed her for information, but anything that she wanted to share with us was always positive. She always had a good time, and they were very creative with helping the kids get their emotions out in ways other than counseling, traditional counseling or questions. You know, they would make clay figures of their emotions they were experiencing, and then during the car ride home, she'd talk to us about why she made a mad emoji or a sad emoji. And it just was a very unique approach to helping kids process their grief. And it helped us understand how to help her even more.
I guess it kind of also took my mind off things when we had fun time and stuff, but also we could talk about it and I was still thinking about it, but it helped me get through it.
The services offered at Ellie's Place are free to families when they need it most.
We just got out of a very expensive medical realm, and we just paid for a funeral, 2 funerals. And yes, we have help and support, but Ellie's doesn't charge you. And it's, at the time, it may not seem like a big deal, but it was. You know, it was just something we didn't have to think about. Knowing that wasn't another burden that we would have to carry was huge.
So they could focus on what mattered, each other.
Ellie's Place was good for the 3 of us because it could encompass Isabella, and while she was in her group setting with kids, we could sit in ours if we chose to. And, you know, we were in the child loss room, so we could get out feelings that we were having and she could get out her feelings. So just embracing those feelings and working through them and kind of normalizing them, seeing other people that really have this too, helped us.
It helped them get to where they are today.
I'm pretty proud of where we've come from. You've got to keep that smile on your face, like Tommy did, and even when he was going through it, I mean, it was amazing. Even when he couldn't talk, he was still, making us happy just by little things that he was doing. And so I think that's, it'd be a shame if we didn't keep that going as long as possible. So that's what we do.
What were some of his favorite things?
He really liked yellow.
Yeah.
He loved his yellow Converse, which he wore like every day. And he was kind of a neat freak. He cleaned the bottom of his shoes every day he got home from school. He didn't like dirt. He really liked going outside and playing soccer.
There's a lot of his sayings that we still say. And
a lot of them.
What are those?
That's what I do, right?
Yeah. I control you.
Yeah, I control. He told Isabella one time, I control you, so we still say that a lot around the house. We just yell things out.
Yeah.
And, we know that it means
We're
that.
a loud
So,
house.
yeah, we are. So you can just tell that, there's the joy in our house, that he has something to do with it. He has something to do with it, so.
Grief is a journey. It never stops. It never leaves you. It just changes and moves with you through life. And Ellie's Place is a vital stop on that journey.
He was truly an unconditional lover, really. Like, he loved people. And he always saw the good in people and wanted to make people better. So, like, one of his best friends was in a wheelchair. And he used to always say how he felt bad for him and felt bad that the kids made fun of him. But he never saw that side of people. So for me, he just makes me see beyond the surface and see the good in people and not someone's disability and it's a big part of who I am personally and professionally, and he's driven me to go back to school and become a nurse practitioner in 6 weeks. So I'm just excited to carry on what he's taught me about love and people.
I see things in a whole different way now. And unfortunately it took that, but I think you need to change for the better. And we all have in our own way.
Good morning. I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Ruddy family and the teens for sharing their emotional Ellie's Place stories, and to Betsy Stover, Molly Dobson, and the group of breakfast ambassadors for sharing their personal stories about why they became Healing Heart Society members. I'm Charles Ramsey, and I'd like to thank each of you for being here today. I'm thankful for being a former Ellie's Place family, honored to be a Healing Heart Society member, and grateful to serve on the Ellie's Place Ann Arbor Community Board. In 2017, my sons and I lost Allison L. Ramsey after a short battle with cancer. I knew we needed support to navigate our grief journey, and a family member suggested we look into Ellie's Place. Ellie's Place had a tremendous impact on our family from our very first evening. Emotions that had been held inside began to manifest themselves in a positive way for both my sons and for me. We all learned ways to cope with our grief and develop skills that allowed us to share and be there for each other. We will always grieve our loss of Allison. However, because of Ellie's Place, we are equipped to process our grief. Today, our oldest son, Trey, is a senior at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And our son, Chandler, is a senior at Y-High, Washtenaw International High School, and is deciding his college choice for next year. I am so proud of the young men our sons have grown into. Trey summed up our family's time at Ellie's Place best when he said he felt comfortable because he was in a place where his peers actually understood what he was feeling and what he was going through. For many of our children, teens, and families, Ellie's Place is their primary grief support system. And for some, we are the only support system they have. Ellie's Place Ann Arbor needs your financial support to continue to serve grieving children and teens in the Ann Arbor community and surrounding Southeast Michigan area, at no cost to their families. If you have been inspired this morning, I would like to invite you to join me and many other members of the Healing Heart Society. To all current Healing Heart Society members, I'd like to ask you to consider adding more years to your pledge or increasing your pledge to a new level to help even more grieving children. If you are not yet a member of our Healing Heart Society, I hope you will consider joining. There are 4 Healing Heart Society pledge levels. Your Gift of Hope is a pledge of $1,000 each year for 3 years, or $83 a month. Your Gift of Compassion is a pledge of $2,500 each year for 3 years, or a little over $208 a month. Your Gift of Friendship is a pledge of $5,000 per year for 3 years, or $416 per month. And finally, your Gift of Love deeply impacts the lives of grieving children and teens in our community through a pledge of $10,000 per year for 3 years, or $833 per month. Should you prefer to make a one-time gift today or to make a pledge of another amount, these options are also available. If you'd like to make a gift of stock, or if your company offers a matching gift program, these giving options are available as well. Please go online to our secure donation webpage at the URL on your screen and review the Healing Heart Society and other giving options I have just described. If you prefer to print out the pledge form and mail it to Ellie's Place, instructions for doing so are on the donation webpage. Earlier in our program, Bree shared the importance of our Healing Hearts Society members and how critical their multi-year pledge commitments are in providing Ellie's Place with the gift of financial predictability and sustainability. We are grateful for this solid foundation. We are also grateful to our community for coming together to build this amazing healing space for grieving children and teens. Our capital campaign donors were incredibly generous and made a dream a reality. However, our reality is we still need you to be able to serve grieving children, teens, and their families in our beautiful building. Ellie's Place Ann Arbor still needs your financial support to continue to serve the 1 in 12 children in our community who experienced the death of a parent or sibling before age 18 at no cost to their families. Please give what you can. Every gift will make a difference, just as every child or teen we help makes a difference. We sincerely thank each and every one of you on behalf of the grieving children, teens, and families we support. We truly appreciate that you took time out of your busy lives to be here this morning and learn more about Ellie's Place. Now, I'll turn the program back to Christy for our closing.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you to those who shared their Ellie's Place story with us. And thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. I'd also like to thank the Ellie's Place Ann Arbor staff, community board, and wonderful breakfast ambassadors for all of the time and energy they gave to make this event possible. You may become a Healing Hearts Society member or support Ellie's Place Ann Arbor anytime at the donation webpage listed below. And remember, if you're able to stay online, we welcome you to join us for a live open forum Q&A session. Please hold on until after the credits roll and we'll see you there. Thank you and make it a great day.